saying admin, Xavier, login, and hello, we're logged in. In this video, we're gonna check out how easy it is for anyone with just a small amount of technical skill to break into a website. Now, we're going to use a technique called brute forcing, which is probably one of the most used techniques on the web to hack through web authentication parts. So, we have a web application admin panel in front of us right here. It can look very different. It can be more graphical. It doesn't really matter how graphical it is. It is the mechanism behind. So, we have a standard login form here with a username and a password. And you're thinking, how can we gain access to this? So, we can sit and type stuff and press and then see, oh, username and password failed, and so on, so on. So, the very few steps you're going to do before you're going to brute force this login form is to pay attention to the error message. Username or password invalid. Take note of that for now. Another part you need to take care of is to view the page source. Now, that could be done by right-clicking, saying view page source, or pressing Ctrl-U on your keyboard if that shortcut is actually present for you. Now, if you zoom in a bit, you can see it says something about a form right there. That is the actual part coded in something called HTML that will present to you with a login formula and a button. The input text name user is the first username, that is one the right here, the input field. And the other one here, input type password name pass, is the second input field. You need to understand this very well, but you need to be able to identify these kind of two things, right? It says button, so that's probably a button, something with login, and you can just say it says login, so that's the actual button. When you click that button, what is inside the input field 1 and the input field 2 right here called user and pass is going to be sent to the server. Now, everything from here, you don't need to think too much about that. Just to verify, you need to find the name of the two input fields. Input field 1, name user. Input field 2, name password. Now, depending on a few things, there can be more you had to put to the string that needs to connect to the server. But that is, a bit more advanced. I'm going to show you the very first part, which is most of the case web applications use these days. So, you're going to use a tool called Hydra. I'm going to show you the command right now that Hydra is using. And pay attention to another thing is the IP address you need to use and the path up here you need to send the username and password to. Checking out Hydra, the command itself, we know the username is admin. So, we need to know something. Of course, you could make this a capitalized L and give it some sort of dictionary called users.txt, and that file will then contain a lot of different usernames. But you better pay attention to it's going to be a cubicle attack then, because cubicle basically means that you have to multiply the amount of usernames and passwords. If you have 10 usernames and 100 million passwords, that's 10 times 100 million. That's a billion, right? That's a lot of attempts. So if you can take one factor out, not making it cubicle, but making a singular brute force event, then you need to know the username, so make it a small L and type in the username. We know it's admin right now. It's particularly more easy to find a username because many usernames these days are actually email addresses. In this particular case, it's just a word called admin. However, it can be this or that. So, we're going to say capitalize P, and we're going to point toward the actual list of passwords right there. Next thing we're going to do is to say, well, we have the IP address of the server. So that is a server's IP address. Now, if you were to brute force a actual website, that would not be an IP address, it would be a domain. So you need to type the domain name there instead. HTTP, domain name, blah, blah, the same thing. HTTP post form basically means that this request is sent as a post request. How do we know that? Okay, so let's go back in. Up here you can see the form, it says method post. So it's using the method post. If this method is not present, it doesn't say anything, then it is a GET request. Now, then you would have to change this to GET, but in most occasions, the login forms use post from the HTTP protocol because it is not saved in the actual bar as a history. Get is also why a GET request is used for formulas. When you do a search query, you need to bookmark. For example, a website where you search for used cars or something like that, then you can bookmark that query that you had a used car from, let's say Volvo, and it was a 200 horsepower car. Then it would say something about that up here in the URL. So GET requests are URL stuff that's saved in the browser. You can bookmark it. Post requests are just sent directly to the server. In theory, it is the same thing, only that is interpreted in different ways and stored different ways. Okay, so after that, we need to get to the part where it's inside the two quotations. The very first one is the actual path /admin/. That is the path we checked out before. It says /admin/. Now, it can be quite important sometimes you remember the slashes. So if I remove one of the flashes in this particular exam right here, it would not work. Then it would just result in a lot of errors, and basically, I'm going to show that at the end of the video how it will look if something is wrong or fishy in this actual command right here. First of all, I'm going to show you exactly how the command is used. The next thing is the colon right there. It's a user. Remember we talked about it says name user, name path. It's the two input fields we need to send traffic to. So we're going to automatically send this as admin because we know the name is admin. We filled it out as admin, as a hard-coded value. And the password list will be a list of passwords. In particular case, it's going to be the one called RockYou, right? So we go back again and say pass, and that's going to be the name. So user equal to, and this is a weird thing. Why does it have ears, right? It's not an ear. It is a wildcard saying everything that comes from this part here will be inputted right there. Well, basically just hardcoded as admin. Everything that comes from the part from password from RockYou is going to be inputted right there. And then it says colon one more time. Okay, so the next part here is F for failure. You can also be S for success. The F for failure basically means that we can input the value of more than one word or just one word or a sentence that the application sent back as a response to our attempt to log in. Pay attention to what I said before. It says username or password invalid. Well, invalid is the name a word sent back to the application when you try and log in, just like that. Oh, it doesn't work, so we got this invalid username or password. So whenever the program called Hydra is seeing this word invalid, it's going to continue and try and brute force. So I want to say with the username of admin and the password of the next in the list of rockyou.txt file, admin.whatever, 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 until it does not see the word invalid, it will stop. And that last request it sent will then therefore be the successful username and password pair, which is going to result in a successful login. Now, I want to say one more time for everyone, Hydra will not log in for you. It will send the actual password and username and get the request back. So in the event of that exchange of data, it will actually in theory log in, but you will not get the session back in your browser. So basically you need to make sure that you save the username and the password that the Hydra tells you in the console that it's found. Let's run this string command right here. So I'm going to copy paste it. Just one line, copy paste. Go to the terminal. I'm going to put it in. And I've been running this before, so it's going to come and say something like, no, it doesn't say that. But sometimes when you're running before, it will say something like you can add on an extension to this here called tag capitalized I, which basically gonna result in that it will skip that you already tried. Now, we run the command. Anyways, it says blah, 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 version, and you're gonna get this right here. So admin and the password then Xavier. And we can go ahead and check that by copy pasting, going back, saying admin, Xavier, login, and hello, we're logged in. And whatever it says right here doesn't really matter. It's just the actual login panel. So we're gonna go back one more time. resend, and we should be logged out again. Okay, so now I will show you what happens if you did something wrong in this particular command right here, because it's very normal to see a lot of weird errors when you run Hydra. I understand it is a difficult thing to remember these kind of commands, so let's just delete the slash right there. As I talked about before, that will be the actual failure. I'm pretty sure it will fail. So let's go ahead and just, clear the screen one more time. You're gonna run the command just as before without the slash right there, right? So you're gonna run the command, and you might see something like this at some point. Now, this is a very standard output for Hydra. Many of you guys see that kind of output, and I'm really sorry for you, because it's probably because you forgot something right here. Now, it's never the username, it's not the password list, it's not the IP. Well, if it's wrong, it might say something with the host. It's probably not that, but it's something in between the quotations. This particular case, we're gonna go ahead and go back to the application and say, well, it does say slash in the end. It's not saying that. So it append that as automatically for you. You should definitely just bring it to the command. So you have to put the slash there, and you can run it one more time. If the IP address was wrong, it says 5/4, for example. Let's try that. Well, then it will say something different to you. I'm gonna show you exactly what it is. It will say something, the host is down or something, so it will basically hang a bit. Try out the IP address. I really hope that the provider doesn't have a server called .5, because I will then pound it a bit with this program. And at some point it will come back and say something crazy to you, and definitely with some error code. So let's go ahead and wait it out and see what happens. So it came back already, and it says something like 0 of 1 target completed, not 0 valid password found. All children were disabled due to many connection errors. So it kind of tells us that, well, you typed the command correctly, but I could not get a connection to that particular host. Going back again, gonna alter the 5 to 4, and then you're back again. Now, you can see many different kind of errors with Hydra, and I think I showed you one of them. Another one, a third and final one, is gonna be the F for failure. Now, we know that when we type in the password and the username incorrectly, just like that, it will tell us that, username or password is invalid. Now, let's assume that you typed something wrong from this particular error message. It could be you typed invalid wrong. It could be invalid without the L, for example. Not that, without the L. Like that. So it says invalid. And you just, you had a good time. You were fast. You didn't think too much about it. And you're gonna execute this command right here, and boom, you're done. And it looks fine, and then this happened one more time. It's very typical, because what really happens here, Hydra is going to go ahead and check out and say, I want to try and log in with username admin, and the password of whatever is the next line of password in the list of rock.user.text. Okay, so take the first one, boom, 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 boom. And since it doesn't really validate the correct invalid statement from the web application of invalid user credentials, it would just say, well, everything is fine. So basically, it will say it found all these passwords, and none of them will actually work. This is a typical wrong thing by Hydra, and has something to do with also this. It says invalid with an L. So please pay attention to what you type when you use the command. So I want to talk about now what is the actual implications due to a bad password. Now, we noticed that the password were like Xavier, right? So something like Xavier, something like that, right? And that is a particularly bad password. Now, even though that you are probably told that, pick something that is easy to remember, but also long, and 8 characters were the old standard. Now they talk about 12 characters, and still doesn't really matter. If your password is bad, it's going to be in the list. Now, the list that I use is called RockU. RockU is a big list of millions and millions of passwords from a common collective, sharing website that will collect new common passwords and put it into the RockU list. So that's why it's called RockU. basically it will just try different kind of passwords. Doesn't matter if it's this long or that long, it's going to be in the list. It's not a brute force of the actual password in the sense of trying every possible combination. It is a brute force of, I have a list of different kind of passwords, try those. Now, how do you make sure that you have a long enough password that cannot be brute forced? Well, it's difficult, but if you make it long enough, there's a good chance it's not going to be in the lists. You can also try and make it really weird from a list that's not there. You can also check out the lists. Basically, that's the best advice I can give you right now. So what I want to say is that the password length is really important when you pick a password. This is how hackers can gain access to any web page using this very simple method. Now, I also told you that there might be something more that should be added to this string right here, but that's something you will learn eventually. See you again online and have a really nice day.